Loudest college football stadiums, most hostile college football stadiums, most intimidating. There are a lot of ways that people classify this stuff. Here's how I choose to classify it. I just want to go with the loudest. I want to know which places make the most noise. Now, I don't care about your decibel readings. I don't care about what it says on your scoreboard. I don't trust any of that. I trust these two instruments I have right here on my head. They're called ears. And despite contrary to popular belief out there, they are unbiased ears. And I've been to most of these places for the biggest games. So, backstory, I'm watching this list circulate the other day, and it was one of those loudest college football stadium graphics. And I'm looking, and all due respect to some of these places, and none of these places are quiet, but all due respect to some of these places, they did not have business as high as they were ranked. Conversely, there were some that weren't even in the equation, that didn't even make top 10, not even honorable mention. And I'm like, I know I've been to these places before. I know that I had ringing in my ear the entire way home and into the early portions of the next day. So where is it? So what can we do about that? Well, if you have your own show like I do, we can do a lot about it. We can lead it. So tonight, to start the show, I'm going to tell you the loudest stadiums I've been in. Some of them I haven't been to. In fact, right off the top, I am telling you, I've never been to a game at Virginia Tech, so I can't put it in there. I have never been to a night game at Clemson. The only Clemson game I went to, they played A&M, and it was roughly 137 degrees at kickoff. Still a good environment. Clemson probably didn't get a fair shake, but I can only go on what I've experienced. OU, never been to a game there. Hope to change that soon. Nebraska, never been. Wisconsin, never been. So there are some places where data is incomplete. There are other places where we're just going to have to make some tough decisions tonight. LSU is the best environment I've ever been in. It is the consistently loudest place I've ever been. LSU at night, unlike some things in this sport, LSU at night is everything they say it is and more. Death Valley at night is the apex environment of college football. They're not lying to you when they say that. And they also, as a fan base, as a people, as a purple people down there, they accept the role. So their role is to create the most hostile, intimidating, overwhelming atmosphere imaginable for road teams to go into. If it's an 11 a.m. kickoff, it could be hit or miss. But when the sun goes down and those folks get a night game, oh, it's unbelievable. I've been in there for their biggest games. It's normally like when Bama goes in there. I think I've only been there. I've been there when they play Auburn. I've been there when they play Bama. I'm trying to think. I hadn't been to LSU game in 2 years, which is egregious. But nevertheless, LSU, I've been there for multiple big games, unmatched in college football. Now, some of you heard me 2 years ago when we went to our next place, the number 2 venue on the list, Neyland Stadium at Tennessee. Some of you heard me when I went there for the Alabama game in 2022, and I came right here on this show, and I said, that's the loudest environment I've ever been in. I'm not backtracking on that. The day they beat Alabama in 2022, loudest place I've ever been. The problem is I've been to Neyland a couple of more times, albeit in blowout losses, so it's not their fault necessarily, but the environment did not match what it was in 2022. It can. I was glad 2022 happened because it dispelled this ridiculous misnomer that had started to float throughout the college football ether, and that was, well, Tennessee's time has come and gone. Neyland Stadium, Rocky Top, it was fun in the late 90s, but that place isn't what it once was. The team wasn't what it once was. The fan base didn't go anywhere. The architecture of the venue didn't change. How incredibly loud that place could get hasn't altered in any way. They just needed to be competitive again. And frankly, it was pretty hostile even when they weren't competing for the SEC or in the playoff picture, but now they are. Like they'll be smack dab in the middle of the playoff picture again this year. They've got a reasonably favorable schedule. They got a couple of big games at home. So Neyland Stadium, right there near the top of the list. Penn State, whiteout specifically, is the best spectacle that I've ever experienced in college football. I've been to a couple of Penn State games over the last couple of years. Last year, Michigan goes in there, second half, total snooze fest for obvious reasons, because Michigan put everyone to sleep. And that's the highest compliment I could pay to that day, Sharon Moore's team. What a preview of things to come that game was. But the year prior, I'm up there. I think they played Auburn, wasn't it, Jesse? Yeah, it was an out-of-conference game, and it was the whiteout game. This was once upon a time where, television contracts worked in such a way that Penn State could actually get a marquee game as the whiteout game. It's a big problem in our sport right now, friends. Big problem. College football is allowing media companies to pay hundreds of millions to billions of dollars for these media rights deals, and then the television partners don't even understand what builds the value into the product they're purchasing. Let's if we're going to do one thing, let's go buy something and then do everything to screw up what makes it that valuable. I digress. Penn State, specifically the whiteout environment, unbelievable. About as close to a major pro wrestling event as anything that I've experienced, because it's got levels of that, it's got levels of rock concert, it's got levels of football. It's very performative, but in an authentic way. Because the fan base, 107, 108, whatever thousand strong, again, they know they have like an intimate role to play in the environment, and they pull it off. Very, very pridefully, they pull it off. Next up, this was something that was probably the impetus, honestly, for me doing this segment. Paper pop. You can do your list if you want to, and you can talk about loudest environments, and you don't have to put them number one. But if you don't have Jordan-Hare Stadium at Auburn squarely in your top 5 of loudest college football environments, then you don't really have a list of loudest college football environments. This place is insane. Specifically when Georgia or Alabama are in town, and I don't even need Auburn to be ranked, although it helps when they are. That place is insane, and unlike some of these other places, they've got deafening noise. They also, in a sanitized way, have what they would call Plains Magic, or as it's more loosely translated, just pure voodoo. So there are things that happen for the Auburn Tigers in their home venue that they can't really count on happening on the road. Now, recent history would say that's been turned on its ear. But overall history would say there's some really crazy stuff that happens there. Case in point, the kick six and the prayer at Jordan-Hare. Those are things that, frankly, should never happen for any team in history. Just mathematically, the odds are overwhelming that doesn't happen. It happened for these folks 2 times in 3 weeks, and guess which venue housed both games? So Jordan-Hare Stadium, at its best, just full-throat rivalry Saturday, unbelievable. And yet I've got lists floating around out there where it's not even in the top 10. And I don't want to question your intelligence. We're looking at one of 2 possible things. Either you don't like Auburn or you've never been to a game there. Because if you go, I don't even care if you hate them, honestly. Bama and Georgia folks who have gone to watch their team play on the road there would tell you, begrudgingly, the place is another world to try and go win games in. You don't believe me? Ask folks who have coached in there as a road team. Next up, very, very close here, very neck and neck, Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, the Swamp, down in Gainesville, Florida. Oh, so loud. All concrete. It's 1,000,000 years old. It's hot. It's gross. It's so wonderful. The road accommodations are barely anything at all, which is exactly what a college football stadium should be. The fan base, it's very, very important to note this. The fan base, it has always been rabid. Florida folks have always been like that. But it's important to watch some of these places. If you have sustained success, you'll get baked into your fan base a younger generation that has experienced winning, therefore hasn't known hunger. Bama deals with this right now. Ohio State, I think, deals with this. Florida's gone through downturns long enough now where the entire younger generation has experienced hunger. And what that does to a game day Saturday is there is nothing like a hungry fan base. There is nothing that sounds like a group of people that have not had it in a while. And conversely, you can tell when they have had it. Clemson has been at the mountaintop several times, Bama, Ohio State, these places that have won fairly consistently for over 10 years in a row, every one of them has the same complaint. Man, our game day environment's good, but it could be next level, or it used to be next level. They don't have to talk about that at Florida. Now, you'd probably want to change that. You'd probably love a full trophy case, but in the meantime, we're talking about loudest environments, loudest stadiums. I was down there when I think it was also Auburn. Auburn's like a fixture in this whole thing. I was never an Auburn beat writer, but I happened to be on the road when they played in a lot of these places, insanely loud. When they played Auburn down there a few years ago, that was the last game I was at, actually, at the Swamp. So crazy. Been that way for a long time. and maintains its reputation. The next place, regrettably, I doubted, and it proved me wrong, just emphatically proved me wrong. The team proved me wrong multiple times last year. The venue proved me wrong. Is there anything that Washington did not prove me wrong on? Husky Stadium at Washington, in Seattle at Washington, is squarely in the middle of this list. I'm talking about louder than some SEC venues that have 20 to 30,000 higher capacity than they do. Big Ten as well. I've been to all of them. I've been on the sideline. I was at the sideline for this game. I've been on the sideline for pretty much every place that I'm talking about here. Husky Stadium's right there in the mix. This place was louder than Oregon when I went there. So I go up there, and I've been told all week, Cooper Protegna specifically, because he worked there, he was telling me all week, you're going to be blown away because you grew up in the South and you think you know everything about these loud venues and you've gone to some Big Ten places and you think you know, and like I was saying, no, man, but internally I was thinking, yep, I pretty much do. And so he said, it'll blow you away. I went up there, blew me away. And you get lulled into a false sense of being able to hear because the morning is pristine and you got the sun coming up over the lake there, over the sound. This is actual footage from the iJosh. If you're watching, this is not B-roll that Fox or CBS or ESPN provided us. This is from my phone. How great does that look? It looks like a screensaver. Couldn't be more calm and tranquil. And then you fast forward 2 or 3 hours, and what did we see? Well, we saw a walk-off. We saw a field storming. The place was so loud the whole day. I don't know the science of acoustics. I can't explain it to you. All I can tell you is there's a feeling when noise is coming down on you, and they do it there. Unreal noise. I was telling folks just during the game, oh man, I cannot believe how loud it is. And also, they told me it was going to be like this, and I doubted. So I shouldn't have doubted. Now, I will put Oregon right there. I'm not saying that there's an overwhelming either-or here. So Oregon is right behind them. Autzen Stadium looks like a spaceship from the outside, especially on the freshly renovated parts, and kind of feels like another planet when you're inside as well. So just sort of an otherworldly experience, and you need to get up there right as the leaves start to change. That's when I went up there a couple of years ago. Really, really loud, and in fairness, I was up there in a game where they pulled away pretty quickly. So I put Oregon in this top 10, but even I know I haven't really experienced an Oregon game like, for example, we'll get to Saturday, October 12th this year. You know who Oregon plays in Autzen Stadium Saturday, October 12th this year? That would be the Ohio State Buckeyes. Does anyone think that one could be loud? Does anyone think that we could be there? It's not a slam dunk. It's not an automatic because there are other big games that day. So, yeah, they're there. I am absolutely, positively putting Kyle Field at Texas A&M in my top 8. Staggering amount of fan engagement here. It's not just people yelling the entire time. It's people knowing what to yell. When I went there for the first time, I had thought without having to see it, just sight unseen, I always wondered, why is Kyle Field, why is Texas A&M not included on more of these lists? And I thought there must be something I'm missing. Certainly, everyone wouldn't just exclude them from these lists if they should be on there. So then I went there, and I said, wow, they've excluded A&M from these lists, even though they should be on there. Place is amazing. It's insanely loud. And also, like I said, when I went there, I'm on the sideline, and they did the Aggie War Hymn, which is when like 400,000 people just sway back and forth. If you're in the press box actually sways. It's kind of like the T-Rex when it's approaching you in Jurassic Park and the water starts to ripple. It's kind of the way it is when they start doing the Aggie War Hymn up in the press box. So I wanted nothing to do with the press box, so I stood on the sideline. And there's a thing that happens sometimes in these bigger venues, and it happens at A&M. There's like a moment of sensory overload because your eyes aren't used to seeing that. Certainly your ears aren't used to hearing it, but your eyes aren't used to seeing that. So it happens for me at least. I have to look down for a second, then look back up, sort of like a visual reset button. Otherwise, I get dizzy. And that's on the ground. I can't even imagine what it's like being, second or third deck there. So Texas A&M's in this. So that's my list. That's my top 8. I did not have Alabama in here. Bama's really loud. Bama's also won a long time. You cannot manufacture the kind of hunger which leads to the kind of rabid intensity and noise that some of these other places make. Ohio State was not top 8 for me. Really, really good environment. Michigan as well. Really good environments. And I've been there for the Michigan-Ohio State game the last 3 years, so I've seen the best of the best. Incredible. Just a notch below some of these other places in terms of sustained noise. Texas, same. Georgia is an interesting case study. I'm a firm believer that Georgia gets a bad rap for the more sweater-vested mentality that their fan base had for a long time. That place is insane now. Kirby, I think his attitude has also permeated its way into what game day Saturdays are like there. Here's the problem. I haven't been there for those bigger moments. When I was there last, I think they played Tennessee a couple of years ago, and it was kind of a slog fest, and it was loud, but it was also not quite on the level of some of these other places. But I know, like that Arkansas game Georgia played a few years ago, they had Notre Dame in there for a night game. Had I been there, I probably think Georgia would be in this top 8, but I am going based off what I have experienced. I've been there for LSU at night. I was there for Tennessee when they played Bama. I was there several times when Auburn absolutely deserved to crack this top 5 list. Been there for the whiteout at Penn State, Oregon, Washington, the Swamp, A&M. I've been all those places, and they belong. And frankly, some of these other places you guys are putting on that list don't belong above them.